What is up there, everyone? Welcome to another dynamic conversation. In this dynamic conversation, I had the pleasure to welcome a friend all the way from Germany, Marvin Flamme, who is a videographer living in, like I said, Germany, Düsseldorf. We go way back. We met actually in Australia on a surf camp when I was 21, and he as well. He was actually also in the first episode of Dynamic Conversations together with another friend of mine, Filip. But here we spend some one-on-one time and talk about, well, as this podcast goes, a variety of different topics. Some of those topics include depression, systems and tools to significantly improve your relationships, as well last wishes, and we also talk about my cardiac arrest that I had a few months ago, and a variety of more topics that I hope you will enjoy. Now, in the show notes, which are located in the description of this episode, you can find anything that we mention or talk about, any resources, like any recommendations or books or, documentaries or whatever. So check them out. But with that, I hope you will enjoy this dynamic conversation with Marvin Flamme and me. I've been curious to know if you had any sort of systems that you have used or currently use in your relationship to improve it. And I have a couple that I wrote down because I thought might be interesting to just share them for each other or to anyone listening. And I want to name a few, and then if you have any that you can think of, then you can share them too. Right, cool. But this might give you some awesome ideas too, maybe. Yeah. So the first one that I actually have is it's a card game, and it's called The End, and it's called The End is AND, and it's basically 199 questions, but they have and I can actually, because I will actually open their website and share it, so you can directly see what I'm talking about. The End. Here it is. Let me share screen. You can see this, right?
Yes. Now.
Yeah. So you have different editions. This is the couples edition. They have also the long-term edition. This is the long-term couples edition. And yeah, it's just a lot of different questions on the topic that you picked, right? So you also have the Friends edition. And I think it's an awesome way to get to know each other because there's so many questions that you would have never thought about, to ask each other. And it's just, I play this so often with her, and it has so strongly, I would say, improved our relationship.
In what way? What are those questions?
Maybe they have some examples, actually. I think here's one. Here, you can read this. This is one of the screenshots, of a card. What's the pain in me you'd most like to heal? It's stuff like that. It's questions like that, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, or there's, in the questions, there's also different, topics. Some have to do with, sex. Some have to do with, money and finance and stuff. Here on the screenshot is another one. Do you believe in the one for you, and am I it? That's
a tough question.
yeah, but the point of it all is in the end that it opens a conversation that you don't always have to stick to the question, I would say, but it's just that it opens a conversation. Yeah. And yeah, we have this, if we go for a drink, for example, you just pull out a couple of cards. You don't have to do it for hours, but just a couple of cards. And you can do this anywhere so easily, and you instantly will start to know each other so much more.
Yeah.
I honestly, I love it. And you can play through the 199 questions once you've done them again and again, right? Because you always change as person. So some questions that we had were some like family related questions that we couldn't really answer because because Corona, we hadn't really, met each other's family, for example.
Yeah.
So there's certain questions that at the moment don't make sense to answer, but then maybe in a couple of months might make sense. I don't know. It's a great one. What do you think about it?
Cool. I don't know. It gives people a reason to ask questions that are very maybe sometimes at an early stage of a relationship you don't want to ask important questions, or you just don't know how. And I like asking questions, but I can understand that some people don't, or that your partner is kind of overwhelmed with questions. Like, I just got out of a relationship a couple of months ago, but the dating process was really, really nice. And we had this rule to have a skip situation. So if you ask things and they get too close, too personal, too fast, you can just say skip, and then you just drop the topic and you go to another topic. And sometimes it's just good to establish that rule. It's not even like you want to have it, but it's kind of like a safety net. So I really like that, and it was cool. And like, of course, in the beginning you use this more, like the skip situation, and then it gets less and less. But I like the card game. I think I'm gonna get that.
It's a small investment, honestly. I think it costs maybe like 30 or 35 euros.
Yeah.
And it's like one that you have for your whole life, or that you can use for your whole life. I have recommended it to so many people, and everyone who actually did buy it and used it, I only had like really positive feedback from them actually on it.
Right.
So I love it. They also have like this, because they have also like the family edition. So if you want to know your family better, the co-workers edition, the self edition, if you want to just know yourself better.
Well, that's quite cool.
My girlfriend actually bought it for herself, that one. And that's cool too, because it asks some reflection questions that you might have never thought about. So another one, and then I'll just come to you and see if you have anything. So it's also a game. It's also a card, or it's a board game. But this one is actually, it's a sex board game, but it's from Tease or Please. They make a lot of great stuff actually, and it's a really fun way to know each other on that topic. Because I also feel a lot of people have not explored, or a lot of couples have not explored that area a lot, I think.
Yeah.
And this one just makes you do some fun activities together, ask questions on that topic to know about each other. Maybe I can also see if I can find the website.
Yeah, that's also the other thing. Like when you get to know someone in that way, and I think in general, it's really good to just ask a lot of questions. Like for me, it's always helped, and I don't know. For me, this has always been super cool, and you get to know someone very well if you ask a lot of questions. And so, I think that might help as well. Having a board game like that to sort of have a gamification of this, like to make it a little bit more easy. And otherwise you're going to sit on the sofa and you're going to be like, so what do you like? And this is always weird. It's like, okay, well.
In a fun way, this board game kind of opens up this, conversations or topics. And I just want to share I bought it just in Belgium somewhere. But we bought this one. It is like the classic one that they had, and it's extremely well rated. And it's really like a board game. Like,
but you have to do something. Like it's like you do something, she does something, or how?
Yeah, I mean the whole board has every color that you see here has a certain thing, and some cards are just kind of knowledge cards about sex, just on the topic. Other cards are about personal, things like, do you think your partner or, the person you're doing this with likes A, B, or C?
Right, yeah.
You know, and other cards are activities, but they kind of build up from easy ones to harder ones, or more spicy, you could say, the further you go.
But that's cool.
But they're still, I would say, kind of, they're not extreme, you know, they're not extreme. This is like a great way to start to know each other on that level a lot more. But they're nothing crazy or something. I think they have another edition on that, but this is a good one to start with. And you can also play this multiple, I mean, for a lot of months
with
or
multiple
years.
partners, if you were into
Multiple
that.
partners. Sure. That's good also.
Shouldn't play that with your family.
Maybe not, unless you're doing some Game of Thrones stuff there, but... So I have a few more that I wrote down, but I'm just curious if you thought of something that you have done or used in your past relationships that has really helped it, or systems or ways to improve it.
Well, I don't have fancy board games. I don't have any card games or something. What I like to do is like having experiences together that you have not made yet. So let's say you start to, I don't know, play some sport that you have not tried, both
Right,
of you.
that's cool.
I like that, or I like to travel. You know, if COVID is not kind of making that more difficult, I love to go on a like very spontaneous trip. Like basically you meet up on let's say you meet up on Friday and you know that she will stay over, or your partner or whoever will stay over for the night. You just take the car and you go somewhere else. Like, I mean, the person has to trust you, but I love doing that, or I love to play the game. Oh, this is actually a nice one. If you go for a walk, this is also a thing that I do a lot, and I like doing that with another person. I will do the rule that each person can only decide one street. So, well, I decide the street where we go, and then the next is the girl, and then she will decide, and then you end up going somewhere that you don't know usually. Which is again a new experience.
Way of discovering.
Exactly. So kind of linking new experiences with the relationship to make it more interesting.
Right. I like the street thing actually. I never tried that, and that sounds really awesome.
I also like. I like rating food and this sort of stuff, not by myself, but like I like to go out and try, let's say, African food or something that you wouldn't have every day, and then you create a rating system together, because usually everyone really likes good food. So like just to combine things that you can do every day. Yeah,
I wrote one down also to find a shared hobby, and that's something that you were sharing or saying there too a little bit, right? To like a shared activity. Because that's something that you can do or do in your daily life, right? And there's a benefit to doing a hobby together that you have, I don't know, you can expand your social connections or exercise. And a nice one that I actually do with my girlfriend is climbing together. And I mean, it's great. It's really awesome because you can do it both individually, especially bouldering then, right? So not with a rope. But then also together. Or like salsa is something that we also kind of want to explore.
Yeah, I really want to learn how to dance.
Yeah, that's a great one too. Acro yoga is also a really nice one actually to do as a couple together. But salsa I would like, that we've been talking about like that too. Because that's like probably in the winter somewhere would be awesome to start doing that.
Oh man, yeah, that's really, really, really cool.
And I just have 4 more things that I just quickly want to share on this then. One is also using Splitwise. You know Splitwise?
Like, is that sharing like builds and invoices and stuff?
Yeah. Right. You can use this for travels, for, if you live together, for example. But you can also just, I don't know, it's an easy way when you go and have a drink or food, or you buy something and you want to split it between each other, to just have a nice app to easily do it there. So I don't know, Splitwise has been a great kind of app that I really like to use more money related stuff. Also Notion. You know Notion? It's like a note-taking app like Evernote. But you can also make a page together, for example, and you can share it with someone. And we have, for example, a Notion page together where we put like stuff like decoration for our apartment, for example, or travels that we are interested in that we kind of put there. It's sort of like a bullet board with ideas about our relationship. And that can go into very, different topics like, or home parties that we would like to organize. But it's an awesome tool as well that you could use to put information down somewhere and kind of look at it together or work on it together in a way.
Yeah.
And also another sort of tool is having a shared calendar or to share your personal calendars to each other. But I do think this is important that it depends on who you are with, because it's not on spying on each other, or you should not use it for that reason, but rather to just know, to not have, because we're getting an apartment together now, right? And it was just very easy to know each other's calendar, so we could book certain dates where something had to happen, like a delivery for the apartment. Or if one of us wanted to go and do a dinner date with another couple to know already when someone is kind of free. It's kind of handy if you don't use it in a wrong way, but just kind of know the time slots your partner has.
I like
that.
Thoughts? I have two more thoughts. One regarding the dating process. I mean, you can do it sort of whenever, but I feel like especially when you're dating, I think it's cool to give the responsibility to one person. So you say, okay, let's date on Friday, and I'll take care of the date, and then next time she will take care of the date, and then you surprise her or do whatever you want. But I really like doing that, and I like it especially when you know that someone has no experience or doesn't know anything about it. So, for example, the last time when we were dating, she said that she's not really, she has no idea about art. And, as you know, I work in the field, so I was like, okay, I'm going to take her to a museum. And it was actually really cool because it was a completely new experience for her. And she was kind of not judgy, but she was like kind of critical, and she thought like, okay, I don't know how it's going to be to go to a museum, and we had a coffee before and breakfast and went for a drink afterwards, but like it was cool for her to go out of her comfort zone, and of course she has to trust you in a certain way to do it, but for me that really helped. And also I think this is for me the biggest thing that I like to, or that improves sort of any relationship, is to detach yourself from normal things that you say, like I love you, blah blah blah, like this stuff, and actually to show it more, or to actually show that you care. So instead of just sitting on the sofa and checking your phone and asking how your day was, you can actually really like engage and sort of ask more questions and sort of dig deeper. And I like doing that a lot. Like I'm not someone who will do let's say the small talk stuff every day. I won't ask you every day, like, how was your work? How was this? How was that? I want to know specific things.
Okay,
like,
so you ask like you ask.
I know the biggest problems, for example, and I will ask how was it today with your colleague, because I know he's an asshole. So I'll ask specifically this. Or I will do something, or I will say something that I know will make you think, instead of just saying I love you or whatever. Or I like doing that. It's a bit more complex, if that makes sense.
It does. Yes, it requires a bit more energy, of course, but you definitely get way more out of each other if you do ask a little bit more than just small talk stuff. So
yeah, and as you know, I'm not someone big on words in that way. Like, if you had a bad day, I'm rather gonna cook some food, and I'm gonna, we're gonna sit on a sofa and hang out, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you," blah blah. I can do this, but I know like if I do, and like if there's action, it will be a bigger impact. If that makes sense.
Yes, I also like the second thing that, or the first thing actually, then, or to so to date to that you do something one week and she does the other week another thing, and then you kind of switch roles every week a little bit.
Yeah, just to see and like to give each other a little bit more, let's say, new grounds to figure things out and to see, get new inspiration. Because otherwise it gets boring. I have those two friends that are married now for a couple of months, and they've been together for, I think, over 10 years. And they do something like every week. I mean, they're a bit too busy for my taste, but like that's their thing. But they surprise each other almost every week with something. They do stuff, and it's not even like that they're like 100% fan of it. They just do it to see how it is. They just go to the museum instead of thinking about it for 2 weeks if they should go. They just do it, and I really like that.
Yeah, I do definitely. I can definitely see how trying to do or like maintain that, doing new things with each other, even if you're already like 10 years together, how important it is to actually get to somewhere as like 10 years. Or at least like being happily together for like 10 years. There's other aspects like communication too, right? But like doing new things, and that's why, for example, like travel is like a very easy one to do new things, because it brings a lot of variety and new things. But also it's important to do it just where you live, in your environment. And it's really key that you both are actively trying to do that actually. Otherwise things get boring. Definitely.
Fixing problems is I think one of the best things to get to know someone. Like,
yep, that's true.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So one more that I had, probably there's more, but just that I wrote down here, is to this is something that I do, that I love to do, is to do a half-year review together. And mainly the 3 topics to kind of do or explore are, the first one is like just writing down like what we both did good together in our relationship. All the things sort of that we are proud of that we did together in our relationship. And then another one is, what can we do better or differently? I think that's also a great one to sort of explore, and just writing down everything. Not like what did we do bad, because that's a little bit going too negative, but better like, what can we do better or just differently, from here on now on. And then another one is, the last sort of topic to explore is to the current worries that you have in your relationship right now, and writing them all down. And I love, like I recently did the second one with my girlfriend, and it's an awesome thing to do. Also, if you keep track of this thing and you write it down actually in, for example, like Notion, and then you see it again in another 6 years, or another 6 months, you can see the progress that you or the journey that you kind of went on together a bit in your relationship. And I think that's just the same with like goals in life or like in your business. I think it's really important to see the level that you started from and the levels that you're going, or the level ups that you did together. Helps a lot to know that you're both, that your relationship is just improving. Yeah,
I agree that it feels a bit like a business thing, but I think
maybe
it's applicable because what it takes is commitment. I mean, once you're sort of in love and like you move together and like sort of the magic vanishes a little bit, you had problems and issues together, and you've seen the dark and ugly sides maybe, then it's a question of commitment. And I think like the love might change, like the feeling that you have, and especially if you're talking about very long relationships or long distance relationships or whatever, then I feel like the commitment is growing and the feeling might change, but it's like, I think it's like, it's an evolution,
Yep.
So I think it's cool to keep track of that. And I mean, business-wise, this is a very common thing that you meet your employees, or you check on yourself what you did the last years and see how you developed. So why not doing that by yourself?
Yeah, and it might sound sort of more as a tool to use in business, but I think the only reason for that is because many people have never tried to use it in a relationship.
I mean, this I like this idea to check on yourself and see, hey, this is where I am right now. This is where I want to go. I'm going to see in 6 months where I am. Why not do this with your relationship?
Exactly, right? Yeah. I mean, because it's something that you do together, a relationship.
And if
you don't know what you did good, then you don't know what to contribute, or then you don't know. It's great to celebrate kind of things that you did great together and recognize those. But if you don't know what you can do better or differently, and you don't discuss those things, then you're gonna like stagnate in your relationship, I would say.
But I think this is a general thing for every type of relationship, whether it's romantic, business, friendships, family. Communication is like the key skill. Like, if you're not able to talk about your fears, your emotions, your problems, if you're not able to say your opinion, and you're worried about having, an argument or whatever because of that, then you're gonna run into huge problems. And this is I just talked about this with a good friend of mine, and her friends, they're married, and they've been married for, I think, a year or two now. They've been in a relationship for 5 years, I think, before that. Yeah. The guy doesn't know that she wants to have kids, and she doesn't know that he doesn't want to have kids. They're married, and they've been together for overall, I think, more than 7 years or 6. How does that sounds how can crazy. You do that?
It sounds crazy, but it happens. It truly happens more often than you think, and it's just about not talking.
Yeah, and people are afraid of hearing something that they don't want to hear.
They're also afraid to start a discussion, and when your day is kind of like peaceful, but you have something going on inside you that you always wanted to talk about, you sometimes just don't talk about it to keep the peace. Yeah. In the short term it works, in the long term it's disastrous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these were just some of the things that I had. I don't know if there's anything else that comes up in your minds. Else, we can move to a topic that you have.
I like your sort of gamification of those things, because in general those are very tough things to talk about to anyone, especially if you new into a relationship. And I like that you sort of use games and sort of easy ways to do that, and I think that's really cool because
they're more playful.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I mean the first two that I recommended, the card game and the 6 board game, Tease or Please, I would say from everything that I shared, would highly recommend both of those. They in a very fun and easy way open up your relationship to another kind of level, I would say, for many people. I'm just very curious what the painting behind you is about.
This is a painting of a friend of mine. He gifted that to me. I can send you a photo.
Together
later.
With the chocolate?
No, this would have been horrible because the chocolate would have been gone bad by now. This is, I think, a year old or 2, and I have another big one in the apartment.
Great. Yeah. Another big bottle or a painting?
Painting.
A painting, okay. Another big bottle of chocolate, all right.
But speaking of it, I'm going to have a little sip.
Yeah, sure. But it's a great painting. I this is just random now, but it does so much to have like art in your apartment or in your house.
Yeah.
And of course, like picked like art that you like, right? And also if it's from a friend or from someone that you know, I think it adds another level of, it's way more, it's cooler. I think it's more personal also. I don't know. I like my sister, she does also like a lot of arts, and when I had last time an apartment, I also had some work from her. It made just my whole apartment so much cooler and so much more prettier, and I was able to talk about the artist too. Yeah, do you want to go over to a topic that you have?
I mean,
I'm curious.
We've been very deep already, right?
Sure. So, yes.
I think this is the first time me speaking about this openly or in public, but during the COVID time and a little bit before that, I've experienced a depressive phase, which I think a lot of people have, or depressive period. And I had this before in 2019, I think. And I'm at the point now where I'm starting to seek therapy, which is great and also very difficult here in Germany because it takes you about 6 to 12 months of waiting to go into therapy.
Really?
Unless you're very highly suicidal, whatever, you will get treatment right away. But let's say you have a normal depression, mild depression, whatever, depressive period, then it takes you a couple of months.
Is there such a lag?
Actually, well, as my therapist has said, there is no lag in therapists.
Psychologists or therapists, yeah.
There is so I guess how it works is that the insurance companies, they buy a certain amount of therapists or spaces. And they do not give away a lot, so they keep it sort of minimal. Mm-hmm. So they would need to maximize the spaces. But this is something for me that's been sort of new, and I know you've had trouble with that too. And I wanted to sort of know and share my my thoughts on how to work with it, because it's not like you're gonna get rid of it. Like, you're not gonna take a pill or you're not gonna start therapy and it's gonna be gone. Like when I just started, it
takes a while, or it can take a while depending on you know how deep you're depressed, deeply you're depressed.
And also on the reason, and mostly it has something to do, as I've learned so far now, with your upbringing, with your childhood, with your experiences in the past, with your experiences right now. I mean, there's certain triggers and whatever. For example, right now, my therapist also agreed with me that I'm not in a deep hole of depression. I'm doing well. I can't complain with my life, but it's just more about getting a bit more bulletproof, sort of, that you're not going to go as deep if sort of shit hits the fan again.
Sure. So, I mean, even though that you might not be super deep, it's still not a pleasant thing to experience, right?
Exactly. And it's for me, it's also more about understanding where it comes from and working with it and dealing with it again. Like, I can't change things from the past. I can just accept it more, and also learn how to deal with it. So,
I mean, the past can be a factor, but it can also be the present somewhere, that something like recently happened, like a big change or something that caused this, right? Because you also said that in 2019 you had a similar experience like now of the feeling.
No, I mean, so in 2019, this was the first time that I thought about maybe being depressed or whatever. And there were a couple of things that came together, which was, a breakup situation that was very rough, because I moved from France to Germany sort of instantly within a couple of days. Before that, I had lived in Canada, and I had a very good life, lots of friends around me. I had a very, very good job. And just the good life, sort of. And I moved to France, and everything was different. I was there by myself. Work wasn't going as great, no friends. My French was good, but not as good as I hoped. So basically nothing went well. And then you sort of fall into a hole, and I couldn't get myself out of it. And then, the relationship and lots of things went down, and a couple of other, family related things. And then I was like, oh shit, okay, what am I doing here? Like, my life is really shit right now.
By the way, like, depression a lot of times has to do with loss.
Yeah. I'm sure this was a trigger. Like, it's not even a fault of someone. Like, I'm 100% okay with it, but like, it's more of losing a lot of things, losing your work or losing certain things. And so that was tough, and I got myself out of it with a couple of things, and that's what I'm interested about. If you have any thoughts on that, and I'll share my ways. And then earlier this year, it was kind of a similar situation due to COVID. I couldn't work as much as I did before, and as well, prices went down. I couldn't travel. I work mostly internationally, and I couldn't. So most of my work, I would say 70-80% was gone. And still can't complain, but it's tough, and also for your ego, it's very unpleasant to see that. To see what you used to do and shoot and do whatever, and now you're not able to do it anymore. And then the relationship came as well. We broke up and a couple of other things, and then this time it hit me really hard. And this time it was to a point that I was thinking about suicide for a long time, for a couple of weeks straight, to the point that I was very afraid of going outside, because I wouldn't trust myself anymore. Because if there was a train or a car passing by, half of my brain would say, Jesus Christ, this is your chance. Like, why doing it? Why continuing to suffer? And this was surprising for me and very scary.
Right.
That
is scary.
Yeah. And then, I knew that I just have to get things right and sort of continue doing things. But then it's really tough if you have no energy and whatever. And it's not even like I would sit in my bed or lay in my bed for the rest of the day. I wouldn't, because I didn't want to be sort of confronted with my thoughts. But I would go for a walk for like 10 hours or something. I'd literally go out all day and walk, because I wouldn't face my thoughts. Or if I was too scared, then I would just try to do something, but I would sit in front of the computer and watch YouTube videos so that I wouldn't need to go outside. But then somehow I knew that I have to just continue things that do well, even if you don't realize or feel it right now. It feels kind of numb. So for me, that was sports, which was difficult during COVID, but I still had the chance to train. And shooting, like, I couldn't work in a normal way, but I offered a lot of free shoots because I know it helped me. So I talked to friends and I told them, I'm going to shoot for you for free. I know you have no money. I know you're broke, but I want to be able to do my work. Even if I'm not getting paid for it, it really helps me. And then also for me, this was the first time that I spoke about it openly. So
that's great.
In our relationship, I spoke about this to my friends, to my family, to my brother, who never knew that I had problems with that.
Right.
And this really helped a lot. Plus, I signed up on a couple of waiting lists for therapy, and
that's great.
This was incredibly helpful. Like, this was just something that, like, being able to speak about this, overcoming your fear, is incredibly helpful.
Definitely.
So I just wanted to share that, and that's a topic I think that you know a lot of stuff about too.
Thanks for sharing it here actually too, and actually talking super openly now about it here. Because Corona was definitely it still is, but it's a crazy time, and it's almost, you could say, logical that you felt almost all these things, because there were so many losses that Corona sort of caused, that it would, it's definitely normal that you almost felt so many things. Again, not that they were like fun or pleasant or anything, but extreme situation always, or very often, also triggers an extreme reaction.
It was, again, it's this thing of things being combined. Like, I think COVID was just a trigger again, but it could be anything else.
Right.
So for me, it's really important now to be able to deal with many issues at the same time, and to see, okay, I just need to continue doing sports, for example. Like, there's no way around it. It will help me, even if I hate it right now. It will help me. Or I need to be able to speak about this. I need to see friends. Like, sometimes I don't want to see friends for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Sure.
And I think this is really important. And I think it's important to have a list, sort of, to know what feels good for me.
Yep.
And, like, I'm just gonna do whatever happens.
Yep. Yeah, because the tough thing with like if you're depressed is actually that what you should be doing are the things often that, you know, when you are depressed you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like talking to someone, like going out for a walk or staying active and exercising. Those are all things that could greatly help people who are, for example, depressed. But often they don't have the energy sometimes to do it. And that's the tough thing actually about working through it.
Yeah.
But having reminders, like you said, is a great way actually to, you know, that possibly can help you to push through it. You know, when you're feeling good, to know, okay, what really helps me to feel good, to write those down and to have those kind of on a card with you or something where you're feeling not good.
Yeah.
That you can sort of check those cards and know, like, all right, those are things that I wrote down when I was feeling good. They made me feel good, so they could help. But, so yeah.
I think it's also very important to not judge yourself too much.
Definitely.
Because for me, it was like, okay, now I'm being weak.
Right.
Like I am, my business is not going as strong. I'm always like, for everyone, I'm like the successful person that like where everything is going fine. And all of a sudden you have to show like, okay, now my business might go down. Like my life, my relationship went down. My athletic performance is going down. Everything is going down at the same time. And I think it's really tough to face that and to show that, and
that's tough.
Yeah.
But you know what actually, because I mean, that's absolutely very tough for, but the way to sort of combat that, not to say that it's easy, but is to actually write down a list, you know, when you would say like, okay, my business is going down, and that would result to you thinking or feeling like I'm a failure or I'm not good at doing business, is to write down a list of all the times that you did something, you know, a smart move in your business or made a great decision, or when it was going good, to just get yourself out of this black and white of, you know, thinking, and to see like, okay, maybe right now it's not going great, but, you know, there were times that I did make great decisions and where it was going good.
Yeah.
So if it was back then like that, it means also that it can be again like that.
Yeah. And also you were just the product of, you know, the time and the issues that happened. Like so many people, you know, that have had like a tough childhood or whatever, bad experiences, they're very mad at themselves like for being a certain way. But then this is the only way that you sort of could have been, because that, you know, this is the only way that it worked, or you know, you overcame certain things or whatever. So then for me, I decided I wouldn't just hate myself anymore, which is weird because it doesn't work right away. But for me, the biggest thing was really speaking openly about this. And many people that you talk to were open themselves after that and said, hey, I have problems right now too. And then you realize like, oh shit, like a lot of people feel bad right now, or in general. So
everyone can relate to problems in some way.
Sure,
Everyone went through something terrible in their life or tough times.
Yeah. But it was good. I mean, in a way that really helps appreciating a lot. And also sort of just going back to the basics, seeing what does good. Like I eliminated a lot of people around me that or the contact and the relationship to them, not themselves. But I cut a lot of friendships where I knew it doesn't really do me good. Like it doesn't help me.
Cutting away some negative people.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they had a bad time, but it's just you go on different paths
or people exactly that you're not in line with.
Exactly.
Where you want to go.
Yeah. And that helped a lot. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, the people around you do a lot on how you feel.
Yeah.
So talking to people was the thing that really helped you, and exercising.
Yeah.
Were there other things?
I actually, this is a second topic that I wrote down, and especially in exercising, because I asked myself a lot of questions at some point, and I found out that the sports that I'm interested in go in a certain direction that have like, so you create a portrait of yourself, like a persona, right? And
when
in general, like everyone has a sort of image of themselves that they want to portray, that they want to be, where they want to go to, and I think that's totally fine. But you know, the spring of your interest is because of a certain need or because of something that you want to develop because you didn't have it or whatever. So I found out, like, mainly I'm into like strength sports and powerlifting, whatever, and also into fighting. So I asked myself, why is it exactly that? You know, like, of course, this is the stereotypical man, you know, strong and he can fight and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's very stereotypical and it's very, very sort of general and generic and very basic. So, like, so why do you like this? And probably there's a lot of biology in it, but also it's because you felt weak at a certain point. So for me, it was very good to find the reasoning why you're doing this and to actually understand that this is not just because you like it or because you have friends doing it, but because it fulfills something that you wanted or needed at some point. And that was really interesting because it could have been ballet, it could have been badminton, and I like any sort of sport, but I'm asking myself, why am I sticking with that? And then because of COVID, we couldn't go to the boxing gym, but then at some point we could. And for me, this was something that helped like tremendously because you have a family and like it doesn't really matter who you are, what you do, and it was really fantastic. So this sport probably helped me the most out of everything. And it's not even like being aggressive and hitting someone, not at all, but like actually facing your fear of being hit and facing that you can hurt someone too, and sort of dealing with respect in that sense. So that really helped a lot. Yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that like that gyms and everything close to exercise, you know, almost everything except running maybe, but that was such a big, I think, catastrophe. Like that hurt so much people,
for
so
health,
many people. I would say. I mean, like mentally.
Yeah. 100%.
It's insane, I think.
Yeah, I think this did a lot of, and I'm not someone who's, I'm not a COVID opponent or whatever. You know, I'm vaccinated. I'm pro everything that you can do to sort of minimize the pain. But I think taking away not only work but also health and movement is such a pain that might have had a bigger impact than actually the pandemic itself. Which I don't know, you know, I'm not a scientist to prove that, but I mean, I had my own gym like in the basement. I could do everything that I wanted, and we trained outside, and probably there was some illegal training too, but like if I would have not had that, I don't know how
necessary.
it would have. There was no way. This was medicine.
Yeah.
And at some point there were curfews here, and I was walking illegally because I wouldn't just see it, and this is of course not right to do, but I needed to do that because otherwise I would have, I don't know, done whatever. And I think this is something that the public health system really just overlooked.
But everyone would almost agree on this. That if they would have been able to just continue going to the gym, it would have made things so much easier, or to continue doing their sports.
I mean, here in Germany, I don't know who was the public health, I don't know who he was, but he said people can just go for a run. And I mean, this is so weird because we're trying to include everyone in public, but people who sit in a wheelchair can't run. You know,
right?
Like people maybe just they don't want to run. Maybe they have a broken leg. Maybe they have pain in their leg and they can't run. Whatever. But like it's just so cool to say you can just go for a run if you want to do sports.
Yeah, I mean, okay, fine. They didn't like stop everything, right? Yeah. Running was still a thing, definitely, or going for walks was still a thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's also the whole everything that sports creates. Yeah, so it's also like the social component of it.
Yeah.
Definitely of moving. That's just the most I think also like the biggest thing that always helps me when I'm in a bad place is just like exercising. Like, yeah.
You go climbing then?
Yeah. Climbing is for me at the moment. I would say definitely the thing that just does it.
You know why climbing?
Oh, I mean, from the viewing point of how you looked at fighting, well, also first because it's just something that I feel that I'm good at.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have to think about it, and it works. Like with some people, you have to explain like, you have to put your hand there, you have to put your leg there, you have to do like. With me, it's just like I just do it, and I can't explain how, but it works. Like it just naturally works great, and it's just great. But also, I don't know what. Mainly that reason, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the past, I used to be like really afraid of heights. So maybe that's some element that could be in there as well. But mainly, I think, because it's just naturally something that feels good for me to do.
It's also something super meditative, right?
Yes, yeah, it's true.
If even if you're with friends, you're gonna be by yourself on the wall, and you have to focus on solely one thing. Mm-hmm. And
it's true.
Yeah, there's not really much you can do at the same time.
No, not really. Yeah, you don't really like with running or walking. You can think a lot in a way, right? With climbing, you don't really you don't think. You just you're really in a moment. So it's really meditative or like very mindful in that way, and that's very peaceful. Then yes.
Yep, that's cool.
Something that I maybe this might help as well if in case like, because do you feel like it's better now?
Yep. But I know it's not. It's not healed. It's more like now learning the way to deal with things, and also there's been a lot of things in my past that I've never talked about that I need to sort of let loose and talk about to a neutral person. Because I've been running away a lot from it, and this is the reason of it. Like I know that the breakup and work and whatever, this will become good again. Like work will get better. You'll have a new relationship or whatever. I'm aware of it. I know it's just a trigger. It has nothing to do with any person, but it's just a trigger of the past, and that's something I just need to deal with. So.
Okay, yeah, but of course it goes in ups and downs, right? It's not always just like, okay, it's fixed now.
No.
It's about just sort of when you go to therapy, the goal of the therapy is just to kind of equip you with, kind of help you be your own therapist. That's kind of their goal, you could say.
And it helps so much to just talk about it to someone, and it reorganizes your brain. And the first time I went, I felt horrible after that, and the therapist, she even said like, okay, you might have a horrible day after this, and get yourself some good food. And I was in a way proud of myself that I've done it, because it's still publicly like sort of an issue to say that you go to therapy, and you're weak right away.
Although in our generation, I feel it's getting a little bit better though.
Sometimes it's a cool thing to do it. Like
working on yourself is these days in our generation a cooler thing than our parents' generation, right?
But like definitely. I've had people ask me if I'm schizophrenic, if I take drugs or whatever, and I'm like, no, I just had a little bit of a rough time in my past, and I need to deal with that with someone who has some tips. Like this is all like, and I feel like sometimes it's the cool thing to do sort of self-help, and to read a lot of books about yourself, and that's fine. Why not doing that? But I also feel like it's still publicly sort of looked at a bit weirdly. But for me, I think it just helps reorganizing it, and sort of letting loose, and sort of the weight that's on your shoulders, you're gonna drop a little bit more and more every time. And of course that leaves its marks, and you're gonna see your scars a little bit more, and they're gonna be more obvious. And this is something that's very unpleasant.
It's confronting.
Yeah, extremely. And you start realizing what you're doing differently. And it's not even that you're doing something wrong or whatever. It's just like it gives you more insight of why you're doing something, why you're having problems that like come up the same time all the time or whenever when it's triggered. So for me, that's quite interesting to do, but also, as I said, confronting and difficult.
Yeah. I mean, therapy, because a lot of people sometimes think it's just about feeling good, but therapy is not about feeling. It's more about thinking realistic or trying to start or looking realistic at things. But it's not about feeling good all the time. There will definitely be like sessions like where you
and
feel
this
a
is
bit
also
less.
I don't know, do you feel like people in general think that life is about feeling great every day?
I think that's something that a lot of people like to have more of, I think there's no one that's like, I don't want to feel more good in my life,
True.
But yes, because in general, I think it's more about looking realistic at life. But of course, everyone wants more pleasant things in their life, definitely, because life is a lot of suffering, or it brings a lot of suffering, right? There's always something going on that's not pleasant.
Happiness the goal of life?
The thing that's a bit individual for people, but I don't think it's a great goal to have.
This is also a topic. That's why I'm making that transition.
I don't think it's a great goal to have.
Yeah, I don't think so either. What's your goal in life?
I think my goal in life, there's different goals, I would say. But I think my general goal is just to have a wild ride, and then when I'm 80 or 90, not able to do anything, look back and be like, okay, it was a crazy but fun ride. It's just kind of my goal in life, is just to make the best out of everything, and just not waste, because you can kind of look at living, like from the day that you're born, you're in the process of dying, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that you basically do in life is you kind of wait until you die.
I mean, if you look at it like philosophically, it's basically nothing matters. If you're homeless and you don't work, if you're the richest man on the planet, if you're flying to Mars, if you're living somewhere in it doesn't matter. If you have a relationship, if you have friends, like it's all about making the ride better or like more enjoyable. But like you will get hurt, you will
for sure.
you will be sad, you will hate everything, and like in the end, it won't matter at all. You don't even know where you're going. Like,
right.
But I like this because then you can just give yourself a reason. Like you said, okay, I'm going to make the best out of it. I know I'm going to die. I know it doesn't make sense to do anything.
Yeah.
It's just going to make it more pleasant or more enjoyable, more experiences. And even that might not even matter.
Well, yeah, like I said, like you're just kind of waiting, right, until you die. And what I kind of think is just that it's about then, all right, how can you make the waiting then pleasant,
Yeah.
How can you make it, for some people, the waiting is about working a lot and paying bills, but I don't think they're very much thinking or conscious about maybe this. But yeah, I'm just like, okay, I just want to have a lot of experiences in life. Yeah. That's whether they're fun or not fun experiences. When something terrible happens in my life, it's not fun, it's not, pleasant. But in a way, I don't mind it, because that's, when I'm 90, I just want to look back at the roller coaster that I went on. Whether it's all the great things and all the bad things, I just I enjoy them in their own way. So life for me is just about having a lot of experiences, I would say.
I like that. I think it's also super individual and personal.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, no one in the end can say what the right way to live is.
No, you don't know.
No one knows.
Like you don't know. I mean, it could be that you're turning a wolf tonight, and then everything changes. You don't know. Like it's just. It could be that mathematics and physics and science in general is just fake. I don't believe that.
Sure,
but it could be. This is the thing. If you look at. This is what I find so fascinating. I mean, if you look at our solar system and you zoom out and you look at the Milky Way and you zoom out and you look at the galaxy and you zoom out at the universe, like you're such a fucking small piece.
Yeah.
That like it doesn't matter. It would this is a crazy thesis, but it wouldn't even matter if the world dies right now or not, or all of us die through a comet or whatever, like some sort of weird thing, because it will change, and then it will be, so be it, it will be okay, and it will be sort of arrange its way. And I find that super crazy, and it's something that you can't sort of understand, or at least me, I can't. So when
mainly
you
you're
zoom in
saying
again,
that
and
the impact, sometimes we're so, like when we say something bad to someone, that we're so like, oh fuck, like I said something bad to someone, and that we think about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. The impact that you make is so insignificant, like if you, like in thousands of years, no one will ever remember that thing that you said to someone, and it just can leave a little bit of pressure off your shoulders to just remind yourself of that of course, if you feel bad, you should make it up or something, but
it's if you regard history and you look at a certain thing, like events, the more you zoom out and the more the time gets more and more and more, the less important it will be.
Sure.
And at some point, the Second World War will unfortunately be not that important in a couple 100,000 years, probably.
The third one, you mean?
Well, even that, yeah. But now the Second World War is still in our everyday, very present, due to politics and whatever, economics. But in a couple 100,000 years, first, we might not be there. Second, it won't be that important anymore because it's such a so far away. So that's super interesting. I wouldn't say that it's not important now, because it is, because we zoomed in and now it's important. Now you need to deal with it. So that's why I think also you need to deal with, what do I want to do in life? Why do I work? Because you're present right now, you're living. Like then you should do something.
You don't have a lot of time in the end.
So I ask myself this a lot, like if it doesn't matter in general what I do. Even if I die right now, it doesn't really matter for the universe at all.
Exactly. For the universe, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, nothing matters. But then I thought, okay, so if nothing matters, money doesn't really matter. My work doesn't really matter. Everything
it's a little bit of a difficult thing, right? Because it matters for your life.
Exactly,
right now.
It matters, but it's not what's the most important thing that I do is the question that I sort of equalize with it.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, what's the most important thing that I can do in my life, and what's the most important thing in life? And I really had to think about this until I came up with love. And this might sound weird, but so I thought about with everything that I do, if I can remind myself to share love, that's good. If I do that with my work, cool. If I'm just kind on the streets, cool. If I have a bad day, okay, but then that's the maximum that I can do if I say hello to someone or So now every time, and I try to remind myself of this a lot, but sometimes you forget. If I'm mad at someone, let's say you see your ex-girlfriend with a new guy, you're going to be super mad, but then you remind yourself of, okay, what am I here for? It doesn't really matter anyway. So I'm just going to share the love, and I'm going to be kind or whatever, the max that I can do. Maybe on that day I can't really do anything to that person, but I think it's really cool to remind yourself, okay, what am I doing here? And it's super detached from your work, from your friends, from everything. It's just your sort of theme of life. And I think this is completely different for many people, or very individual.
It's an interesting topic because it's also a very complex one that some people who are listening or in a very, tough place of they have kids, they are financially not doing great, they have to work, they have to take care of their children, or they're gonna die, you know, like, or pay the bills. Like, it's a tough question to then ask when you don't have sort of the freedom to ask it, because you might be just trying to make, you know, it through the next day. Then it's a tough one, well, then you're more, because even for them it also counts, right? That what they're doing doesn't matter in thousands of years, but you don't want to just let your children go to, you know, let them starve or something.
Yeah,
or quit your job, you know, like...
You could become a murderer right now and kill everyone that you would do, but then that's kind of wasted energy and time. I mean, like...
I also think it's a luxurious question to be able to ask.
Of course.
You know, you can only really ask and think about this when you have time to think about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a lot of time during COVID.
Everyone can think about it, right? But when you're really struggling with your finances and with, you know, putting food on the plates for your children, you're too busy with that you can't really think about this too much.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say wealth, but I would say opportunities give you a little bit more freedom.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, wealth does in a certain way, but I think there's also a border where it actually creates more problems.
How?
I mean, if you make a lot of money, you probably spend more money. That way you have to make more money, so you're going to spend more money.
But like, not everyone, right?
Not everyone, and I think this is also very, like, you have to be super disciplined.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it in myself when I started out, and I would make a video shoot for $100. I was thinking, Jesus Christ, I made it. I just got $100.
Sure.
And then you grow with it, and then at some point you start charging maybe $200, and at some point $500, $1,000, whatever. And then, you know, you get an apartment. Then next time the apartment is a bit more bigger or a better place or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And then you grow with it, but then you have to make more money. So then when it cuts, and especially a lot of companies during COVID, you know, they had problems with it. So you have to go back to the basics.
Sure, and that's difficult maybe to adjust to.
Of course.
Yeah.
But
yep.
Yeah, I agree that you have to have a lot of time to think about this, because it doesn't, for me at least, it didn't come right at me like the answer of the question. But I really like it because it gives me a sense of just everything, and it calms me down in every second.
It does, right? But I also
amazing.
mean like that you have that it's a luxurious question. Like people in a war zone, for example, who are like in deep stress and worries, like they're not thinking about this.
Of course not.
They're just surviving, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's not a good question when you have the opportunity to ask it. And I would say most people here, you know, listening or like in the Western world have kind of the opportunity to do that. That it's not a good one to ask yourself and think about.
Yeah. Also, you also start asking yourself what you do with your time.
Sure, and what's important for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love. I like it.
I really like it. It really helps me a lot. Like, if every time I get a fucking email from someone that I don't like or whatever, and I think like, Jesus, I really just want to like say something bad to you. You have no manners. You know, people just writing one word and they got like a huge email or something. I think about it and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to delete it, or I'm going to say something nice, or if you pass someone on the street, someone bumps into you, whatever, and whenever. But I think it's good to go back to that. It feels almost sort of spiritual.
Sure.
Which is okay to me. I'm not very spiritual. But yeah, and of course I have to remind myself doing that. It's not like natural that I tell myself I'm doing things because of that. But it gives it the reason.
Sure, and it's definitely about I would say having a meaning in life to make sense out of everything is extremely, extremely helpful.
Yeah.
It's really helpful.
Yeah.
So wait, this was a second topic that you wanted to talk about, or a third one already?
I think this was the third one. I mean, we cut sort of the certain sports and certain things into very short pieces, and then this was the third one. But I'm sure we can come up with something else too.
So the second one was about sports and exercising.
Yeah, and it was kind of combined with the depression and sort of like, you know, doing something that's hard and facing it because it will it's kind of like equal to life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the third one was about meaning.
The
or
meaning
about,
of life. Yeah. Jesus Christ, we're being so philosophical here.
Okay, well, let me. Unless you want to share some or say something more about those two, let me otherwise share another one that I had.
Sure.
Yeah. So. Maybe this is also gonna be a very dramatic one.
I love this.
Do you want to have a quick break first?
No. I mean, if you want to have one, that's okay.
I think I might just go to the toilet quickly and have another drink. All right. So the second topic that I had, I guess we're sticking to some more serious topics. Is this is more something that I just want to share and hear your thoughts on. So it's not going to be super long probably, but so I recently, just on a short time, was confronted with like death a couple of times this year. And the first time was just, I don't know if I told you this already, but I had a cardiac arrest. So my heart just stopped, and I basically died. And this happened actually when I was at my girlfriend's place. So luckily she was there. She noticed that something, because I was starting to make like noises. Like when you don't have any oxygen, your body tries to do something. And I started to like sneeze and snore and like, and she noticed like, okay, something is wrong. And then she saw that I stopped breathing.
Was that why you guys were sleeping?
What? Bless you.
Sorry.
What did you say?
Was that why you guys were sleeping, or?
Yes.
Okay.
That was when we were sleeping. So very, very lucky that she actually heard that, because it even happens that if it happens when people sleep that they don't notice it. And this is like something when it happens out of a hospital that there's a 90% chance that you're gonna die. Like there's a very, very, very slim chance that you're actually gonna survive from that. Also, because you don't breathe anymore, so you don't have oxygen to the brain. I'm super lucky that I don't have any neurological problems, that my brain is still functioning, which is also very, very, very lucky on that. And now I'm actually living with an ICD. Like it's a machine that they like put it in my chest. It kind of sticks out of my chest a little bit. But it's basically when if this would happen again, that it just would give me a shock to prevent it. Yeah.
Do you know how long it took the ambulance to come? And because they probably needed to start reanimating you, right?
Yeah.
Right?
So she called the hospital because she explained this to me. And they guided her on the phone how to do CPR.
Wow.
So she immediately had to do that until ambulance, arrived. But the ambulance apparently was there, and also the fire. How do you call it in English?
The firefighters department.
Yeah, firefighters also had to be there because they had to drag me out of the window. But they were there like in 5 minutes. Like they were like super fast there because this was also in a city. So luckily I was in a city. I was not sleeping alone because 9 out of 10 I'm sleeping alone. So this was like, if this had to happen, it happened in the best kind of place, you could say.
Lots of props to your girlfriend and to everyone else.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Extremely. Like my mom, like my girlfriend, she's good with my, like she will be forever good with my mom. Like my mom is extremely grateful for, of course, right? And me too, right? but I can't remember anything of it. So, it was definitely so much more traumatic for them than it was for me, I would say. Definitely for my girlfriend. To see someone dying next to you.
That you love and that you just got to know a couple of months ago, a year ago.
Yes, that's a thought. I can only think about it, but that must be super scary to have that happen. So very thankful to her, of course. Yeah.
That's to her.
That is to her.
Jesus Christ, man. I honestly, I mean, it's been a while that we talked, and I did see it on Instagram that you posted a photo from the hospital bed, but I thought you just got, because I knew that you had heart disease, I thought you just got a normal surgery and like just a checkup or something. Jesus. Well, I'm happy that you're still alive, man.
Me too. And I'm way more happy that my brain is just functioning okay, because that was the thing that I was the most afraid of. I rather would have died than actually would have a brain that would have not worked great anymore.
I mean, it's very common, right? That people, like, they lose their sense of like whatever, like they can't see anymore, or like, for example, whatever, their brains don't work. Right. That's crazy.
Yeah. But also because it took it took definitely a long time for me to feel good again.
How was it like? So what do you remember? You remember going to bed and then waking up in the hospital? What?
I mean, I remember even that day she had to tell me again, and then I was like, because I go to a co-working place and there was like an after work, so I just had like a drink. I remember that day. I remember that, and then we went to bed. After that, and I don't remember anything from that. Even in the hospital. Super vague. I remember super little of it all.
What's the first thing that you remember, like, precisely?
I mean, because they also placed me like in a coma for a while to just more stabilize me. Once I woke up from that, I would say, I started to have some conscious again and started to remember things.
And about the coma, you didn't have any consciousness?
No. And also there was definitely a lot of times that they had to repeat, or that I repeated myself, that they said, that my girlfriend or my mom, like, okay, you already, said this, like a couple of times. So, but slowly it started to appear like, okay, I think I've said this before, It's just your brain is damaged, so it takes time to recover. But like fatigue, when you have like brain damage, you feel so tired. I felt tired for months, and just crazy. And with that also comes like lights. When you feel tired, you don't feel like doing anything. You can't do anything. You feel frustrated with yourself because you want to do something, but you can't. So I also started to feel some definitely symptoms of like depression, that I just felt very like, fuck this. But then slowly things got better, and definitely definitely moving in this, during that time, going for walks was a great help for me as well.
Do you feel like, were there things where you were scared of? Like, the first thing I thought about now was like brain damage, and then you don't really know. I mean, even if you go to the neurologist and they do tests and whatever, and
they've done a lot of tests, they can tell after a while.
Okay, good. Because like I would have worried about, I don't know, speech or language in general. Like, did you have a feeling of like, oh, maybe I can't speak English anymore, or maybe I don't know how to drive or whatever,
Sure.
Did you have things like that where you were wondering if you could do that or proceed in something?
I wasn't thinking about a particular thing that I was afraid that I couldn't do anymore.
Okay.
Just memory, I think, because that was mainly the thing that sort of was, a little bit lost. But my short-term memory was like affected a lot, right? So I couldn't remember things that I did on the moment itself sometimes. But that's kind of normal, to be honest. But they were able to, they did a lot of neurological tests on me, and it looks with with fMRI scans, and everything looked great. Everything looked fine, Yeah, and now I just have to go still a lot of times to the hospital. They're still doing some other tests on me to just kind of find out more like what exactly happened. Because even though that I have a heart disease doesn't per se mean something different happened for it to do this, for my heart to stop. So, they're trying to figure that a little bit more out now. But okay, yeah, so that was a crazy time. Better now. It's still not fun to live with, the ICD and me. Happy, super happy. Oh yeah, this was maybe also a second biggest worry that I had was that because in the beginning when they placed this in me, I couldn't lift my arm. And, because it's connected with wires to my heart. So the wires still had to get more combined to my body or something, so I couldn't lift my arm a lot. This was for a couple of weeks, but I was so afraid that I wouldn't be able to sport anymore, that I wouldn't be able to climb. I was so afraid that I was not able to do that anymore. So I remember the first time that I was allowed to do it, and I did it, and there was no problems. It was really one of the best days this year of this year. So happy that it's not preventing me too much in just living life. But it's noticeable, of course, that it's, yeah.
Do you feel like this has impacted your life on a bigger scale?
One thing that is actually really funny, that when I wake up, now, I'm always like, oh, great, I woke up.
I got it.
It's waking up, even though it's such a thing that everyone does every day, but they take for granted that everyone, right? It just feels like now I'm really grateful that I woke up.
Were you afraid of falling asleep again?
I mean, now there's something that if this would happen again, that would help me.
Yeah.
But of course, because it's so fresh still, it's been 6 months now, it's still a little bit of a worry. I hope it doesn't happen again,
I've had a friend that I went to university with in Berlin, and then when I moved to Japan, he moved to China around the same time, and we thought about visiting each other, and very, very great guy, and for him, he had a cardiac arrest too. And he was by himself, so he died in China, and his family actually never really, I don't even know if they got the body too, but they don't know anything else than he had a cardiac arrest. That's it. They don't know any reasoning, they don't know nothing. Of course, China is very difficult about that, but it was very, very sudden, and that was the first time for me where I was like, okay, this happens to young people. One of my closest friends, his mother just died. Sort of same thing. She sat on the sofa, and then a minute later she just died, and she had nothing. She was a completely healthy human being. So it's crazy that this still happens. We're very much advanced with medicine, and this can still happen.
Yeah, because a lot of times they don't even notice that people with a healthy heart, it can happen to them too.
Yeah,
and they don't per se know exactly. There's always a reason why. They're still so uncertain about it. It's
What about you hear those people, or many people say that they try to live life to the fullest as if every day would be the last. Is that stereotypical, or is that a thing that you see as well?
I already feel like I had an experience in my life way before this where I had that realization to more live life, and this has more to do with losing my dad. I already had some reminders before this in my life to do that, to live life more to the fullest. But of course, you know, sometimes you have tasks to do in your day that has to be done, so you can't always do the craziest thing or something. But it's more about just being grateful, I think. And like I said earlier in our talk, that life for me is about just having experiences, a lot of experiences. So that definitely has actually started because of my dad, I think. To just have a lot of experiences in life. Bad ones or good ones. But of course, it wakes you up in a certain way. You know, that's
quite literally
true. Yes. Yeah. But actually, the thing that I had, the topic. So, and also my grandpa died like this year, which I mean, it's fine in a way because he was old and, you know, was, kind of life. But it just, because what he did just got me thinking, like he planned out his whole funeral and he planned out, like he wrote everything down. He wrote exactly down the songs that he wanted, the funeral, like he's a very organized person. So, and what, you know, he wanted to have happened to his body and you know, last wishes and stuff. And this just made me realize that, you know, you can die earlier than, you know, when you're old, as, you know, almost happened to me. And I started to write down, and this might sound depressing, but I really don't mean it in this way, actually. But I started to write down my last wishes, and I actually printed them out, signed it, and gave it, well, not to my mom, to my mom, but like, you know, we have like a safe box. Like it's stored in there, and you can always update this, right? You don't always have to. This is not for my whole life. Maybe if I'm still alive in 50 years and I'm like, all right, let me update this. But it's just, I think, really good to write down your last wishes, and it's not a lot that I had. It's just a few things that I was like, okay, if I die, what would I want people to, you know, do on my funeral, or how do I want my funeral to be? Or what do I want with, you know, my money to happen with that, or with my body and stuff like that. It doesn't take a lot of time per se, but I think it's a helpful thing to write down for others when you will pass by, and if you have any last wishes, you know, to have them already written down even when you're young, because you truly never know. And I wanted to know your thoughts on this. Sorry. And I just wanted to share that, actually, that I think a lot of people don't think about it.
It's funny because I did the same thing a couple of weeks ago or a month ago.
Really?
And I don't know if I told you, but I haven't said this on the podcast, but this comes along with like asking yourself, what am I doing? Blah, 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 you know, due to COVID, I saw that my work was mostly focused on making rich people more rich. I mean, I work mostly in fashion and sports industry. So you work for a bunch of brands and athletes that have a fucking huge load of money. They pay a huge load of money for me, I have to say. But you just make people richer. That's all you do. Like, and I can be replaced in any second, which is all right. I don't have the impression of being like alive forever or having an impact forever. Not at all. But for the time that I'm here, what I want to do is sharing love. So I thought, how can I use my skill to make something positive out of it? So I decided that something that I was always very interested in was crisis photography.
Right.
I think we talked about this when we were on the phone. So in that order, or in order to be able to do that, you're required to write down your last will. You're required to fill out a bunch of documents, what happens to your body when you get shot, or when you just die because of whatever. And that was incredibly interesting because
Yes.
because you realize again what matters and what you own and where to give it to, and then in the end you realize it doesn't really matter that much. It's nice to have, but like it doesn't really make you feel better or whatever. And it was really interesting and also emotional to see, okay, what am I gonna give to my brother? What am I gonna give, to my friends, my parents, in the case of me dying right now.
Sure.
And that was really cool. And I agree with you that it's something that everyone should think about and everyone should do.
I'm not saying everyone, I think, but I guess it's just something nice to... Yeah, a lot of people only think about it when they're 80 or 90.
It's nice for the people that you leave behind, but it's also nice for you to see. Like, it's nice if you have it sorted out, and I'm not at the point where I'm writing down my funeral or where I'm saying I want this song or whatever.
Sure, I'm not... I also didn't have the playlist written out or something.
I mean, a Spotify playlist with a link. No, I mean, if you're into that, why not? Why not doing it?
Sure.
And if you
it
want
makes
to have
it easier for the people.
Exactly, but like I think it's super helpful because you've had the very close experience, and we both had people that we lost in our lives where it's very sudden, young people comparatively, and you're like, oh shit, we don't know what to do, like. So I don't want my family, my people that I leave behind, I don't want them to think about that, and or to worry about what are we gonna do? What would have Marvin liked to give away or whatever? So I think it's very cool to just say, okay, I'm in the case of this, I'm gonna give this to whoever, and it was very cool. And for me, it was very grounding again to see, okay, I have a bunch of shit that I don't really need, and who am I gonna give it to? Because I can't take it with me. And it's cool because you look at things and you're like, okay, maybe, like hopefully not, knock on wood, but maybe this is gonna be at someone else's place at some point. No, but and it's also, it shows that you're mortal, like that you can die, and it doesn't need to be some crazy like action way of being shot somewhere, but you can just go to bed and die. And you can be completely healthy. So I think it's a great thing. Anything like specific or particular that you want to share of your last will that you say like, I'm gonna give this to someone because...
Honestly, there's nothing materialistic that I'm actually giving except of like money that I had that I wanted to give to a particular person. I don't know, I don't know what I... Like, one thing that I actually had, for example, was that, like the IPS project, my startup, I put so much love in there to help others that I kind of wrote down, like, if I die, it would be awesome if you could just keep it, online.
Yeah.
The only thing that you kind of have to do is just, put the billing on your name. And that's it. That's something, for example, that I had, that I am like, that would be awesome, to leave behind and still impact people, hopefully in a positive way through it.
Yeah.
And some other things that were more personal for,
Like I wrote down, for example, my business too, I want to give to a friend who does sort of a similar thing. And I said he can take all the client contacts and whatever, and of course he needs to be like asking them if they want to work with him, but like in case of that, I want him to finish projects if the clients are okay with that. Or the art in the apartment, I said, is gonna go to a certain person, and if the person sells it, it's my brother, then he needs to keep the money for my nephew, for example.
Okay.
Or I would like him to do that. It's not even I can tell him to do whatever. Sure. It's like, it's a bunch of things. Like, mostly people do with money and jewelry and whatever. And I think it's a very cool thing. And again, for me, it was very grounding to see I have a bunch of stuff that I don't really need, that I enjoy having. But like, it's cool to be able to give it away, or the money that you have on your bank account. It's cool, but in the end, when you're gone, what are you gonna do with it?
No, of course, you're not going to do anything with it. But the people that you're going to leave it to, they might be definitely... it helps them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, this is something that you can always update, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, the crisis photography, is that still a thing that you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, right now, because I'm working with the German military.
Ah, really?
Well, it's a partner program. It's not that they are a client, so they own no pictures, no nothing. So they have no copyright or whatever. Because this is very important if you work with the military or you work with the state, or if you work as a photographer in general. You always have to be very sort of clear, and you know it yourself who owns what, and especially if you photograph things that might not be very beautiful to see. It's very important to see. But yes, but unfortunately, until the end of this month, the German military has not allowed any photographers to go to Mali. It's just because there were some recent attacks. So they said we don't want to be, we don't want to have anyone else traveling with us. It's just too dangerous right now. You can fly to Mali as a tourist, but no one recommends going there by yourself for vacation right now.
I guess so, right?
So it's something that I'm basically waiting every week, every 2-3 weeks to check on. I have sort of some other projects coming up right now. There might be a very cool project in Panama. Everything is very difficult right now because of COVID, you have to say. So you know it yourself, those things are very uncertain until the last moment. So sometimes it can be that you get a call or a message and you have to leave within 5 days. So all you do, that's why the last will is very important, that you have everything done and you're sort of prepared to go and you can make some arrangements. But in Panama, for example, I have a bunch of contacts for German embassies and this sort of stuff. So this is a project where I think it's 20 German, but there might be international doctors go to Panama to work on like they do surgeries on people that can't normally finance that, and they travel around Panama for like 2 weeks and they do that. It's called Interplast.
It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool, and this is also a crisis. Like you don't need to think about going to Afghanistan or to Mali all the time. Of course, this is kind of the holy grail because it's dangerous and it's in a way cool to do, but it's also
if you're
not
looking
cool
for danger.
Yeah, it's not cool to get shot. Like you're gonna be super annoying to everyone because you're gonna be the last guy who's gonna leave the car. You're gonna be the first guy who's entering the car. You're not gonna do anything by yourself. You have to be super clear on that. Like you're a little baby. You don't have a weapon. You don't know how to shoot. You're gonna be always annoying.
Don't you need military training, or some at least, that you if you go with the military, that you can work together?
This is a crazy thing. So they only recommend a workshop that the German military hosts. And of course you have to pay for it yourself, but you should, of course. And guess what? They don't do it because of COVID. So basically they tell you, yes, you can go to Mali. You can, before that you could go to Afghanistan. Of course not anymore. You can go to certain projects, and this is a common thing. Like not most of the countries and nations don't require photographers or journalists to have that sort of training. Right
That's
now,
weird,
it is for the German. For the Germans, it's not possible to do it because of COVID. That might change, hopefully, in the next few weeks. Yeah. But you get a 5-day training on how to behave yourself when you're, let's say, in a kidnapping, or you're at a customs store and you don't get your passport, or there's a bombing and you're with the German military. So this is very important. But of course, this is a 5-day training. This won't do anything to you when you're in Mali and you're completely overwhelmed. So I think, yes, you should. No, you don't really get a bunch of training. You probably need to focus this on yourself. You're not going to get a gun. You're going to get a bulletproof vest. But basically, you're a puppy and everyone needs to take care of you. And that's why you're also annoying. So it's not like you're going to go there and have fun and people are not going to open or come there and like welcome you with open arms, because you make their life even more dangerous. And I think this is very important to keep in mind. Like, you're a risk to everyone and to yourself too. So it's not like an adventure vacation. It's the holy grail of this photography, and I'm very much interested in it, and I'm very thankful that I have good contacts to do that. Hopefully soon, once the military allows it. But again, in Panama or in any other country, there's crisis that's worth covering, and for me, I don't want to make a decision, or I don't want to not take part in it just because you don't need to wear a bulletproof vest.
Do you know Sebastian Younger?
No, actually, I don't. Hang on.
He's like a war photographer as well, or a war journalist. I think more a war journalist actually than photographer.
Oh yeah.
But he wrote a couple of great books actually also. But also just he as a person is pretty known for his war journalism actually, and he's an awesome person, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't forget that you make money with that, of course. And I'm sure if you're working with newspapers or whoever, you're not even making little money. But I feel like this has a little bit of an impact at least. Like, and it's not even like that. For me, I don't have the illusion that I'm gonna change the world with a photograph. But what I would like to do is that one person, maybe a couple, look at the photo and they think about the situation. It's not even that they're gonna go somewhere or they're gonna donate or whatever. It's just reminding someone like, hey, there's a bunch of shit happening, or hey, there's this happening. Look how it looks. I think this is all I can do, and this is the most impact I can have. But I think it's worth trying, and I'm hoping that COVID will not cut the lines more. So right now there's a bunch of projects like the one in Panama that are sort of lining up, but nothing is 100% right now.
Okay. But also in general, the area or the fields of that kind of photography or videography just interests you, I guess, right?
Super, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's, I don't know, it gives me a bit more reason. You know, I like the work that I do, and I will still continue doing that. Also because it pays the bills, and I enjoy it, and I've acquired a bunch of like references in that area. But why not do both, you know?
Sure, and I can get that. Yeah, I can definitely see that it would bring a bit or more meaning to your work, I would guess. Yeah. So the last topic, if you want to switch, that I have is so I'm curious to know about you. Like, what are any fears you had in the past, or things that you were totally scared of doing that you've become comfortable and confident in? And how did you do it? And I wrote down one. So if you need a little bit of thinking time first, I can share it. Or if you have something, then you can take the stage.
No, go ahead. So I know how deep we're going.
As deep as you want. I mean, this was one that I'm proud of, and it's, you know, it doesn't have to be the biggest one or something either, but one that you're proud of, I would say more. So this was in 2020, yes. And this has been something that I've been working to for 3 years. And that was to, you know, ever since I went or started in, you know, alpinism, like my first big mountain was the Mont Blanc. But I always, like, I had a big fear of heights, always. And after doing the Mont Blanc, you know, I started to feel more confident in what I was capable of. And with that, my fear of heights, I got more stable in. Like, I still have it, but I'm just more confident in what I can do on heights. But the ultimate goal that I set it for myself back then, like 3 years ago, was to climb the Matterhorn. I don't know if you know it. Yeah, it's maybe I can share a photo of it. And let me just quickly, for anyone who doesn't know it, share. There we go. What's a nice photo?
Is that in the Swiss Alps or?
Yeah, that's in the Swiss Alps, exactly. So I set that goal for myself like 3 years ago, after that I climbed to Mont Blanc, to just as a personal challenge. And I was like, all right, if I can do that. And 3 years ago in 2020, so 2020, I climbed it and I reached the top. So it was something that I back then was like, I'm never gonna, be able to do something like that. And that was like a huge fear, my heights, that I never thought was possible to do something like this. And mainly I just wanted to share like on how I did it, and on how I would say, you do a lot of things that you're not confident in it, is just by slowly exposing yourself more and more to something, in this case, more difficult. So slowly over the years, I, exposed myself more to difficult climbs, and just that slowly built up my confidence more in what I was able to do, until ultimately that I felt ready. And it took years, right, to actually do something like this. And when I was doing it, I felt it was such a fun climb.
While you were climbing, you felt great already?
If I felt great?
Yeah.
Like,
when did your best feeling come? When you reached the top, or while you were climbing?
When I was climbing. It was
okay, because I like this, because
fun.
This is when you usually starting something is more scary than actually doing it.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true.
Yeah. So I like, probably you could even enjoy the climb, and of course you're very proud of yourself when you're on top. But like, you're proud that you made the decision, and then you just keep on going, and that's cool.
The coolest part is when you're standing down again and you're like looking at the mountain, you're like, fuck, I was a couple of hours on the top there.
I mean,
that's crazy.
I'm even like a witness to this thing. Like, I saw the whole process of you climbing or starting to climb, because a couple of years ago you were really into diving, and then you were like, okay, and you also said that you were even a little bit afraid of the ocean and
oh yeah,
and
sadly enough, with my ICD, that's one thing that I'm not able to do anymore.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing that I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, that really sucks.
But
yeah.
I mean, they don't recommend it.
Yeah.
They can't stop me if I would do it. It's just like, if this would go off when I'm in the water, that's problematic.
Yeah. Nah, I think it's good to maybe take back on that for at least for a couple months, or maybe for a while, until
my idea is to maybe wait for just a year or two or something, and when everything is stable still, and then just ask like my cardiologist, like,
and maybe starting with free diving instead of like you snorkel or do whatever.
I guess snorkeling then, but that's, if you're used to diving, that's kind of lame.
Yeah, of course it is. But so I remember when you started alpinism, and you got really into climbing mountains, and so I remember that starting a couple of years, and I also know that you were afraid of heights. So because we talked about this a couple of years ago even, that you want to conquer this, and you did your skydiving and all that stuff. So it's great to see that evolution. I think I have two fears that really, I mean, everyone has small fears, and you know how to overcome them, and also you make them much bigger than they are. Like
sometimes,
sometimes you just you have a certain skill, but you're not really sure that you can do it, and you make it very, very big in your head. But like for me, well, one is emotional, talking about your past and about your childhood and problematic things, and this was very, very difficult, and opening up to people about this was incredibly difficult that took me 20 years to do. So that's something it doesn't feel as a big of a triumph, but it is a huge one. Like, you don't realize it, how big that is. And then a smaller one, but that's a very prominent sort of one that I'm still working with is
Wait. Just to go on that one first, like, how did you get better at it? It might seem maybe obvious, but just were there things particularly that you did that made you feel more confident in opening up?
I mean, this goes back to, again, very depressive phase and very suicidal phase, and I've had to make the decision, okay, either I'm going to kill myself now, and this is very rough, you know, either I'm going to do that, or I need to work on you know, my past, and because I knew things were just triggers. So I knew, okay, if I conquer my past and if I talk about it openly, then it will go better, and it was right away. But it was just basically that decision, which was very difficult to make, of course. And I don't really know how that is. Maybe that's instinct also, that people want to actually continue living, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind of instinct there.
Yeah. So, like, you have to kind of decide against, like, like that if you were suicidal, which is very difficult also to do then. So yeah, that was a bigger one, like a emotionally very prominent one that doesn't feel, again, as a big triumph, but actually is a huge one, and probably the biggest that you can, or that I had so far. Because it's not physical, you can't really measure it, but it took years and years and years, and
you can measure it by how comfortable you're now these days.
I mean, I would have never thought about being able to speak like this openly to people that I don't know. Like, I know you, but people listen that don't know me, and it makes you very vulnerable. But in the end, actually, it doesn't, because you're just talking about yourself, and you know, that was very helpful. Another very, very common one, and sort of more physically prominent, is fighting. So when you're like, I'm in a very, let's say, special boxing club where people invite, or it's more like a MMA kickboxing thing, where you only get into if you're like sort of get along with the people. So you can't just get into the club, and sort of everyone knows everyone, and there's only like, let's say 20, 30 people in there, and there's a maximum of 10 people training at the same time. It's very, very like, it's like a family, and you sort of have to be recommended, or you have to be invited to go in there. So which is a bit weird, and people might understand it as kind of like a fancy thing. It's just to make sure that people don't go in there to fight for fun, like to fight people, to punch people in the head because they're frustrated, but it's actually to like get a very good level at fighting. You know, there's pro fighters fighting there, and there's also housewives and housemen fighting, which is really cool. Like, and there's a 15-year-old girl, she's a fucking pro fighter, and she kills me if she wants it. So just to get the thing, like, and then there's normal people that are just very, very kind, and I really like that. But then when you're training, sparring is a thing, and we don't do the regular sparring like many clubs do, where you spar every training session every Friday or whatever. So it's in certain times, but of course you're afraid of this, because this is the first time that you actually are in a free fight that you know of, because usually if you go out and you get into a fight, you don't really know of it. Yeah. But then you know, and you have to mentally sort of prepare and think, oh shit, maybe tonight I'm gonna get my ass kicked. And
everyone's
this is something
afraid of getting hit, or most people are afraid of getting hit.
Exactly, and everyone doesn't want to get hit. Like, not even a pro fighter. It like hurts. No one likes that.
Of course, yeah.
And a couple of things that really help is trust, and because the club is so small, trust in yourself and also in your opponent or your partner. So you have to trust, you have to sort of agree on an intensity. Some people spar with 90%, some people spar with 10%, and it can change. So you sort of have to agree, and sometimes also a feeling, like I might hit you very, very fast, but then that really sort of mentally hurts you, and you're pissed off, so you kick me very hard. Right? So this is something that you really need to trust and respect and agree on. You might spar with someone who's much better. You might spar with someone who's much smaller, bigger, whatever. And this is something that I was very afraid of when I started, because I was never really in a planned fight. And I didn't have many pub brawls in my past. So
sure you did. Come on.
Not really a lot. So but this is incredibly helpful to do, and still I'm afraid of it. And if it happens, or if we do some sort of things and we fight a little bit, it's, you have to face your fear, but it also feels very good to do it, and very sort of liberating.
I actually somewhere think that everyone almost should go and have a fight in a like this.
If in a
controlled setting, right?
Exactly. And if you're, all of us, I'm not a pro fighter, I'm an amateur. I don't make my living off fighting. The next day I need to look like a normal person. So with that in mind, of course you wear all the gear, but I'm not gonna go 80%, 90%.
Sure. Yeah.
I might just do super light contact. But still, it's really good to learn.
If it's for training.
Yeah.
And also, I think, because if it would actually ever happen that someone would pick a fight with you, a lot of people who have never been hit, in the face or in somewhere else in their stomach or something, just freeze.
Yeah.
Because they don't know, they don't know that experience, So, I don't know, for some, just... if I would ever, and maybe once I've said this already to you, but if I would ever have children, I would somewhere want them to have some kind of fighting or defense classes.
Yeah.
It's just a skill, I think, to know. Unless I really hate it, of course, but I think it's something practical to know, like driving, to just know what you... to be able to use your body as a tool for more than just... one thing as driving, but to also use it as a fighting tool, to know how to do that if you ever need it. I think that's a good skill to know.
It's so humbling. It's of course it's a great exercise, whatever, but I like the mental aspect of it. It's very humbling. All the fighters that I know, and I'm sure there's different ones and the opposites, but all the ones that I know personally are very, very calm. And when we go out drinking or something and there's someone being rude, they're the last ones that say something. They're the last ones that are picking something. There were moments where I was saying something to someone because, there was a guy annoying us, and I said, okay, get the fuck out of here. And those guys were really, really chilled, and they were like, no, let him talk. We're not going to do anything. So they are way more humble, way more calm than most of the people, including me. So... It's just great. You learn so much about it. You learn a lot about life because it's such a literal translation of life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's that basic. It feels very generic and basic, but it is. If you break it down, you're gonna get punched in the face, or you're gonna punch someone in the face. This is as basic as it is. And it's about committing and going the next time again. And I really like that. So for me, that's a huge part in my life. And it's not that I'm very great at it. I just enjoy it. And there's many days where I really hate it. I hate going to training. I hate some of the exercises or whatever. But then when I'm in retro perspective, and most of the time during the training, I'm enjoying it. So it gives me a lot. So, but this is a fear that I'm facing, and I still need to face. Yeah, and it's
great that you're doing it. Actually, that you're facing it.
Yeah, it's good to do this with other things too. I don't like. I say hello to lots of people on the street, but I don't like it. I like being kind, but I don't want to open up and say hello or whatever, But I know it's good, and I know it's what I want in my life. It's just being afraid of it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, not being stopped by that. So that was the last topic that I actually had on my list.
Yeah, I think we had a bunch of topics on mine that kind of went together with yours.
That's fine. That's fine, actually. Like that. So, yeah. For the rest, I don't have anything else, to be honest, to throw out there at you.